Transformers Animated, Trial of Megatron, Part 3, Act 1. We resume inside Trypticon Prison, with Sentinel surrounded by Megatron and the freed Decepticons.
Sentinel realizes he's been duped. "You wanted me to put you on trial," he says to Megatron. "It was just another distraction."
"While I engineered my escape," concludes Megatron, "how could I have been so deceptive? Could it be that I am what's the word? Decepticon?"
"Not just any Decepticon," declares Lugnut with his usual fanatical fervor, "but the grand and glorious exalted leader of all Decepticon kind. All hail Megatron!" Lugnut falls to his knees and bows before Megatron, then grows angry with his fellow cons for not doing the same. "On your knees, infidel," he demands, knocking Shockwave to his knees.
Which triggers a mini brawl between his minions.
Which is abruptly put to a halt when Megatron blasts them all back with his fusion cannon. "I must admit my time in prison has severely eroded my patience with my minions," declares Megatron.
Sentinel asks Megatron how he did it.
Megatron explains that he put his prison time to good use, learning a foreign language. "I speak Minicon now," he declares, emitting a dial-up connection like electronic noise, his eyes blinking red, which the Minicons instantly understand and obey, seizing Sentinel and Rattletrap. "I find them much more efficient than my usual unreliable help," he adds.
As warning lights flash and warning klaxons sound, Sentinel warns the Decepticons that they may have escaped their cells, but they'll never escape Trypticon Prison. He just triggered the automated lockdown. The whole complex, the whole city of Kaon, in fact, is sealed with a defense shield. Nothing can leave.
"But I have no intention of leaving," smiles Megatron. "Kaon is the Decepticon capital, my hometown, if you will. It is the cornerstone of a Decepticon home planet."
Sentinel swears that the Decepticons will never control Cybertron.
"Sadly, seeing what your leadership has done to this planet, it is no longer worthy of the Decepticons," replies Megatron.
"If that's your attitude, why don't you just leave?" spits out a defiant Sentinel.
"My sentiments exactly," replies Megatron with an evil grin.
Sentinel reacts to an ominous planet-shaking rumble.
Cut to various locations around Cybertron, experiencing the same planet-shaking rumble. Autobots scramble for cover as buildings begin to topple and crumble all around them. Cut wide on the planet as Trypticon Prison transforms out a series of massive thrusters, which fire up and tear the complex free from the planet, along with the entire city of Kaon, or at least a good-sized chunk of it, blasting off into space. Cut to a montage of chaos. It's the worst disaster in the history of Cybertron. Where once the city of Kaon stood, the planet's southern polar region is now an enormous, smoking, sparking pit, spewing up volcanic-like blasts of flame like something out of Jack Kirby's Apocalypse. Countless Autobots lie trapped and buried in the rubble left in Kaon's wake. The exposed sonic canyons are highly unstable and threaten to tear the entire planet apart. Meanwhile, the authorities struggle to respond and maintain some form of order.
Inside Fortress Maximus. It's chaos here too, as alarms sound and Autobot and elite guard troopers scramble for ships in the background, while the High Council meets with Optimus in emergency session. No one is quite sure what to do first.
Finally, Optimus steps up and takes charge. He tells Atlas to order the Cyber Ninja Corps to bring the Allspark to the disaster site and form a shield around it.
"Is that even possible?" asks Alpha Trion.
Optimus assures that his team was able to do it once before on Earth. He tells them to put Jazz on it. He'll know what to do. Once the crater is sealed off, Perceptor's science team can work on stabilizing the sonic canyons. Alpha Trion needs to get on the information network and reassure the public.
What about Trypticon Prison? Asks Alpha Trion. Sentinel Prime is still inside, and we still don't know the status of the Decepticon prisoners.
Optimus tells them to mobilize all elite guard units in pursuit, but keep the regular troops here on planetary defense. Try to open up communication with Trypticon and find out what's going on in there. Meanwhile, Optimus's team will lead the search and rescue disaster relief effort. Now, transform and roll out. Go!
Jetfire, Jetstorm, and Rodimus scramble for the Elite Guard flagship.
Wait, who's in charge of the Elite Guard? Cries Rodimus.
Aren't you? Reply Jetfire and Jetstorm in unison.
Meanwhile, Ratchet heads for robot mode Omega Supreme. Ready to save some lives? He asks.
Saving lives, not destroying them, ponders Omega Supreme as he transforms to ship mode. That is how I want to fit in here.
Optimus, Ratchet, and Bulkhead scramble aboard Omega Supreme, followed by Sari.
Bumblebee looks back and forth between Omega Supreme and the Elite Guard flagship.
Aren't you coming, Bumblebee? Optimus calls back to him.
Bumblebee smiles, then rips off his Elite Guard stripes and joins his friends.
Optimus smiles back and rips off his eternal flames from his legs.
Later, at the disaster site, Jazz leads a group of cyber ninjas in the processor over matter chant, directing the Allspark to project a force shield over the flame-spewing crater.
As he does so, Jazz sees the ghostly image of Prowl smiling at him from within the force shield.
Meanwhile, Optimus flies with his jetpack, putting out flaming structures. Optimus suggests Ironhide's talents might be better suited for the search and rescue effort.
Sir, yes, sir! Ironhide eagerly salutes, transforms to vehicle mode, and roars off toward a collapsed structure.
Where Bumblebee and RC use their stingers and laser swords, respectively, to surgically cut away the wreckage.
While Ratchet magnetically lifts out wounded Autobots, who are then loaded into vehicle mode Bulkhead and Ironhide and transported inside Omega Supreme.
Meanwhile, the city of Kaon roars through space, propelled by Trypticon's massive thrusters. Inside Trypticon's command center, the Minicons operate the city ship. In the cell block, Sentinel and Rattletrap are now held captive inside prison cells.
Shockwave asks Megatron where they're headed.
Somewhere outside of Autobot jurisdiction, replies Megatron, where I can formulate a plan.
Sentinel mocks that his lumbering ship will run out of energon long before he makes it to the galactic rim.
Did you say Energon? Asks Rattletrap. I can get you Energon. Premium techno-organic stuff, too. Not that low-grade Cybertronian crud. With that, he whips out the raw Energon crystal sample from Earth that Bulkhead had shown to Tractor earlier.
Megatron eyes the sample, curiously fascinated. Where did this come from?
Rattletrap shrugs. I told you, I'm a bot who knows how to get things. Set me free and I'll tell you where you can get your servos on more.
But Megatron merely sends in a Minicon to swipe the sample from Rattletrap.
But before he can examine it further, the Elite Guard Armada closes in on Kaon, surrounding the Decepticon city ship.
Aboard the flagship, Rodimus establishes contact with Megatron, calling for him to release Sentinel Prime.
A bit young for an Elite Guard commander, Megatron remarks. I suppose they'll be sending protoforms after me next.
But the city ship is rocked as the entire fleet fires on it at once, then abruptly ceases. "Those were warning shots," says Rodimus to Megatron over the viz screen. "Care to take me seriously now?"
Hothead Blitzwing wants to vaporize the Autobots.
But Icy Blitzwing warns their energon supply is dangerously low.
While Random Blitzwing just wants to juggle the Minicons.
Megatron has an idea, but he needs to buy them some time first. He turns to Lugnut, asking, "Lugnut, my loyal servant, is there anything you would not do for me?"
"Nothing, my liege," replies Lugnut, kneeling before Megatron.
"Good," says Megatron, raising his sword and bringing it down on Lugnut's arm, severing off his explosive fist. "Because I need a hand right now."
Rodimus once again demands that Megatron release Sentinel Prime.
Megatron insists that first he needs assurances that the elite guard will not fire on him once his hostage is freed.
Rodimus orders the ships to retract their weapons. "I made good on my word, Megatron," says Rodimus. "Now it's your turn to make good on yours."
Megatron smiles. "Oh, I'll do better than my word."
With that, a cannon transforms out from Trypticon and fires out Sentinel. As he streaks like a bullet toward the Elite Guard flagship, we see that he has Lugnut's explosive fist strapped to his head, and it blinks ominously in armed mode as we fade out. Act 2. Lugnut's fist explodes on impact as Sentinel plows into the Elite Guard ship's hull, the shockwave from the explosion alone sending most of the other ships reeling.
Inside the Trypticon command center, Megatron opens a hatch in the floor, revealing the giant energon fusion reactor that powers the whole complex. Now let's see just how powerful this techno-organic energon is. He drops Rattletrap's raw energon crystal sample into the reactor.
And the city ship takes off like the Millennium Falcon jumping into hyperspace.
Aboard the flagship, Jetfire and Jetstorm attend to a badly charred and damaged Sentinel.
Optimus asks if Megatron gave any indication where he was headed.
Rodimus explains he just said something about the techno-organic energon and disappeared.
Overhearing this, Bulkhead says he thinks he knows where Megatron might be headed. Earth.
Via comlink, Rodimus asks for the coordinates so the Elite Guard ships can pursue.
"Negative," says Optimus. "It's too far away." But then he looks up to see Omega Supreme returning from a wounded transport run. Fortunately, I happen to know a shortcut.
Moments later, Optimus leads his team aboard Omega Supreme.
Sorry, worried about her dad, is the first to board.
Ratchet says a bittersweet goodbye to RC, promising they'll get that quiet night together one of these solar cycles.
Jazz leaps aboard, wanting in on the action. Any chance to dig the scene on Earth is okay by him.
"Let's go, big guy," Bumblebee calls to Bulkhead.
Sorry, little buddy, not this time. There's too much work to be done here. They need me back on the Energon farm.
Bumblebee and Sorry can't believe what they are hearing.
Bulkhead assures them he's still only space bridge transwarp away.
But it's still a difficult moment, especially for Bumblebee. "I hate long goodbyes," sighs Bumblebee.
"That's good, because time's wasting," says Optimus.
Finally, Ironhide insists on joining them. His orders are to protect Optimus Prime.
"I told you I don't need..." Optimus starts to protest, then gives up. "Oh, never mind. Just come on."
With that, Omega Supreme blasts off into space. Then activates his transwarp drive, warping out of view.
Wipe to Earth, seen from space, where Trypticon Kaon hyperspace jumps into view over the planet.
An instant later, Omega Supreme transwarps into view, transforms to robot mode, and unleashes his full arsenal on the Decepticon city ship. "I still prefer saving lives," laments Omega Supreme.
"There's about 7 billion of them down on that planet you're saving right now," reassures Ratchet.
Kaon Trypticon transforms out more cannons and opens fire on Omega Supreme.
Bumblebee wonders how they can battle an entire Decepticon city.
"We can't," replies Optimus, "but we can deplete its power supply." He reminds his team that the fireworks are merely the distraction.
True, replies Ratchet, but I'd still feel a lot more comfortable if you were wearing this. With that, Ratchet reveals the Power Master suit. The kid figured out how to fix it, he says, pointing to Sorry, and Sentinel's not exactly in any shape to use it right now.
Optimus activates the Power Master suit, which sprouts wings and bulks him up to Decepticon size.
Oh, and we added a few new features, adds Ratchet.
Good work, Optimus says to Ratchet and Sorry, then turns to the others. Now, let's roll. Fly. He bolts for the exit, but can't quite fit through the door, smashing his wings through the sides. Oh, and, yeah, you might want to fix the door, he adds. Outside, Power Master Optimus flies out of Omega Supreme, carrying Ironhide and Jazz.
Followed by Sorry with her jetpack.
And Bumblebee, who uses his turbo boosters to maneuver in space.
Ratchet stays aboard to assist Omega Supreme.
Using the cannon fire as cover, Optimus's team manages to fly undetected to the outside of Trypticon.
Okay, City, talk to me, says Sorry, touching the side of the structure, activating her cyber-savvy power, creating a pulsing ball of energy. Sorry instructs the Autobots to calibrate your internal scanners to this sub-level frequency. It'll lead you straight to two main surge regulators at opposite ends of the complex. Take them both out, and this city'll consume fuel faster than a 1970s station wagon. Before the Autobots can ask Sorry what a 1970s station wagon is, she opens an access panel and the team sneaks on board.
Optimus orders Sorry, Jazz, and Ironhide to take down one surge regulator. He and Bumblebee will take down the other.
Meanwhile, Megatron orders the Minicons to concentrate Trypticon's fire on Omega Supreme's head.
The giant Autobot gets badly pounded. Omega Supreme tells Ratchet he feels like he's going offline.
Rather than risk permanent processor damage, Ratchet shuts down Omega's higher functions and switches to manual. He's gonna try to fly them out of there.
Omega Supreme transforms to ship mode as Trypticon Kaon closes in for the kill. When suddenly, every window in every building in the Decepticon City ship lights up with blinding brightness as the ship takes off like a shot, then powers down completely.
Inside Trypticon, under the eerie glow of red emergency lighting, Megatron demands to know what's going on.
We see Sorry, Ironhide, and Jazz heading for the exit, having successfully taken out their surge regulator.
Optimus and Bumblebee aren't so lucky. Their exploding surge regulator blocks their exit, so they're forced to take another shaft, which leads them straight into the darkened cell block.
Suddenly, the lights come back on, revealing they're surrounded by Shockwave, Lugnut, and Blitzwing. Act 3.
In the tunnels, Sorry, Ironhide, and Jazz receive an urgent comlink from Optimus, telling them to get out.
Ironhide insists on going back for Optimus. He has orders to protect him.
Jazz insists OP can handle himself.
Sorry wonders how Megatron got the power back on.
In the command center, reveal Megatron has tossed sycophant Starscream clone, wings clipped, into the Energon fusion reactor, and is poised to hurl in Laya.
Sycophant compliments Megatron on his brilliant plan to power the ship with the Allspark fragment in his head. Liar insists he has no Allspark fragment in his head.
But Megatron slices off his wings with his swords and tosses him in anyway. He orders the Minicons to steer the ship toward the strongest reading of Energon, which happens to be coming from something called the Greater Detroit Area.
Meanwhile, Optimus and Bumblebee duke it out with Lugnut, Shockwave, and Blitzwing.
While Rattletrap, still trapped inside his cell, calls for somebody, anybody, to let him out!
Powering up with his Power Master suit and swinging the Magnus hammer, Optimus proves to be a formidable opponent to the Decepticons.
And Bumblebee proves to be a fast and slippery opponent, dodging their attacks at turbo speed with his boosters and getting in some strategic shots with his battle-grade stingers.
But the cons gain the upper hand and trap Optimus and Bumblebee inside prison cells.
The city ship still loses power and begins to crash dive into Earth's atmosphere. Megatron orders his minions to forget the Autobots and report to the command center. They do so dutifully, only to be ambushed by Megatron's fusion cannon and shoved into the fusion reactor in a desperate attempt to maintain power.
Except for Lugnut, who leaps into the reactor willingly. For the glory of Megatron!
But Trypticon continues to lose power. Megatron heads to the cell block to grab a few Autobot bodies to power the Decepticon city ship. He opens Optimus and Bumblebee's cells and is about to blast the stasis-cuffed Autobots with his fusion cannon at point-blank range.
But at the last second, a fully armored Ironhide leaps in and takes the hit.
Jazz tackles a surprised Megatron with a Metallicato move.
While Sorry releases Optimus and Bumblebee's stasis cuffs.
Optimus covers their retreat.
As Megatron scrambles to his feet,
Bumblebee turns to free Rattletrap, but his cell is empty.
Megatron faces down Power Master Prime, eye to eye with the Autobot for the first time. But his swords can't penetrate the Power Master armor.
And before he can fire his fusion cannon, Optimus smashes it from his arm with the Magnus hammer. This time, it's strictly fisticuffs.
The two knock each other around the cell block pretty good until the city ship suddenly lurches. There's nothing left to power it now and stop it from crashing.
Megatron rushes to the command center in a desperate attempt to regain control.
Looks like this one's going to end in a draw. Optimus rushes out to join the others. As the city ship plummets to Lake Erie, Optimus leaps out with Ironhide, Jazz, and Bumblebee in his arms, Sorry flying her jetpack.
Cut to Dinobot Island, where the Dinobots and Constructicons, still battered from their last Decepticon encounter, look up to the city ship plummeting straight for them.
Oh no, not again, says Scrapper.
As the entire city ship comes crashing down on Dinobot Island, completely obscuring it from view.
In the sky above, Optimus thanks Ironhide for saving his shell back there. You carried out your orders with honor, soldier. He smiles.
Ironhide replies with a crisp salute and a hearty, "Sir, yes, sir."
Wipe to Trypticon Kaon later. Now a bizarre-looking island city in the middle of Lake Erie.
Optimus tries to bust his way into the city with the Magnus hammer to no avail. It's completely impenetrable.
Sorry touches an outside wall of Trypticon with her cyber-savvy power and determines the entire complex is completely powered down and sealed tight. Nothing can get in.
Fortunately, that means nothing can get out either, says Optimus. Still, there's no telling what Megatron is up to inside there.
Which, Ratchet explains, will just be a ship until he can fix Omega Supreme's processor damage.
Optimus decides it's best for them to remain on the planet for a while and monitor the situation.
Sorry can't wait to see her dad.
Bumblebee admits it's going to be weird being here without Bulkhead.
Ironhide looks around awestruck at the lake below them and the city in the distance.
Trust me, you're going to dig Earth big time, says Jazz.
As the Autobot ship flies off toward Detroit in the distance, we hold on the city island of Kaon and push in. A tiny hatch on the side of Trypticon suddenly pops open. A Minicon sticks its head out, looking around, taking in its surroundings as we fade out. The beginning of Season 4.